Passive breathing is a breath without much consciousness, and it happens thousands of times a day, just letting the oxygen into the body and letting the carbon dioxide out of the body. Inhalation first begins with a neurological impulse firing, signaling all the muscles that need to be present in inhalation to start functioning. And this can be done consciously, such as how we can choose to breathe on command or to stop breathing on command. So it's very cool that we can choose consciously to make decisions within a typically unconscious process. So the most important muscle in this is the diaphragm, and it's the most important muscle in inhalation in general, both in passive and active breathing. So the diaphragm is the main muscle, and it's above the torso, separating the middle section, the thorax from the abdomen. And it does not contract as much in passive breathing as it would in active breathing, where you're preparing to sing. But it does pull down slightly to allow the lung volume to increase, and the external intercostals, which are in between the ribs, do slightly go downwards and pull upwards, so that allows for side flaring, so even greater expansion to the sides. Boyle's law states that when the volume of a contained gas goes up, pressure goes down. So when the lung volume or the space increases, the pressure needed decreases. So that allows for air to rush into the vacuum that has now been created, and that air equalizes itself out within the lungs and outside the lungs into the environment outside of it, and it is inhalation. So exhalation happens primarily due to the lungs, the diaphragm, and the rib cage wanting to recoil back to their state before stretching. And they're elastic muscles, so that's why they want to return to the state and the shape that they were before stretching. So the flaring to the sides of the rib cage is an instance of this, and that also makes the rib cage want to return back to its initial state. So the lung volume goes down, and then air leaves the body, and it equalizes. The air inside and outside equalizes. Lastly, we have recovery, which is a small pause after exhalation, really just used to allow the body to have time to recover and recuperate before the next task of breathing again. Active breathing uses the same muscles, organs, and processes that were used in passive breathing in an enhanced way in order to support the singing breath. So this begins with a conscious and intentful neurological impulse being fired to the brain. It is always conscious and intentful here, unlike in passive breathing where it can be but isn't always. The diaphragm and the external intercostals are much more involved here. So in passive breathing, the diaphragm only contracts a few centimeters, whereas in active breathing, it goes down 1.5 to 2 inches, which is significant. Therefore, more lateral flaring and expanding of the diaphragm occurs, and the external intercostals go up and out and expand more in all ways. The ribcage volume goes up, the pressure goes down, thus a vacuum is created for air to rush in, and air rushes in, and the air inside the lungs and the outside world equalizes. So suspension, which is a phase present here but not in passive breathing, is when the entire system remains open by resisting the vocal folds' urge to want to grip. So the vocal folds' main job is to keep stuff out of the lungs, and when we go to perform and if we have anxiety, the vocal folds want to go back to its biological impulse to grip the vocal folds. So this stage helps the muscles remain ready and prepared but not actually moving. A way you can do this is by breathing in for 4, holding, and breathing out for 4, working on your suspension. Exhalation is similar here as it was in passive breathing. It relies on the lungs, diaphragm, and the rib cage, and that's elastic recoil, wanting to revert back to its original shape. Here, though, we tend to slow down the rib cage's collapse so we can remain singing and holding phrases for as long as possible. And this is done by the external intercostals staying engaged. For a brief moment in the beginning, exhalation takes care of this, but after a while and after recoil ends, we need something else to take care of this. And that's where the abdominal wall contraction really takes care of this job. The transversus, which is part of that wall and attaches all the way around the spine, and the pelvic floor mainly do this. And a recovery is wanted but isn't always achieved due to the line. But both of these breathing methods, though similar and different, help accomplish our goal to sing and to breathe in daily life.